Hello Crafty Tribe, this is Maddie, and let's get creative. I'm so excited this week to be participating in the Sign Wednesday collab, which I'll tell you about later in the video. I did 3 crafts, so I started with this kind of sad little snowman that I found left over at the thrift store. He'd obviously been passed up all through Christmas, and I got him for a steal of a deal at 75% off, and I just thought he was cute and had potential. So just giving him a nice coat of white paint, because who wants to be a yellow snowman? It's just that Rust-Oleum chalk paint. So I started by giving him some long vertical strokes with the linen paint, and then went back in after he dried with horizontal strokes, and it kind of gave it this nice linen texture when it was done, just because the chalk paint goes on a little bit thick, and I was using a little bit of a rough brush so you can kind of see the brush strokes, and I was fine with that. And yeah, just by doing the 2 different directions, it gave me kind of this neat linen effect all over him. So then after that was done, I thought I would just give him a little bit of a lighter shade orange for his nose. He had a really bright orange nose before, so I thought I'd just tone it down a little bit with a little bit of a paler orange color. So he didn't have eyes before, but I thought some eyes would bring him to life, so I'm just using a slate gray Sharpie. I thought maybe the dark gray would be a little bit less harsh than using a black Sharpie, and it was. It's kind of softer, and I kind of like the effect of it. It almost matches the silver. So then I'm just going over him with some Mod Podge, but to the Mod Podge I added a little sprinkle of some white glitter, like a snow kind of glistening glitter, and I thought it gave him a nice effect. So I was pretty happy with him. It was kind of like bringing him back to life. So now he's a nice white glistening snowman. So like I said, I'm very excited this week to be participating in the Sign Wednesday collaborate, and it's being hosted by the 2 lovely ladies at Deco Easy, Janie and Diane, and they create such lovely, unique crafts. You should definitely check them out. I'll have the link posted in my description. And then the other collaborator is Eileen at Crafty Leeny, and she likes to do really nice farmhouse crafts too. Super talented. So it's a great bunch of ladies. Hopefully you'll check out their videos too, linked in the description. And then for my first sign, I started with these 3D printed letters, which is so funny because we had invested in this 3D printer earlier in the year. It was part of a Kickstarter project, and my kids and my husband were so excited to get this, and so I said, well, I know I know what I would like, and I'd like some letters. And so he kind of hummed and hawed, but figured it out and printed me these letters. And then it wasn't even the next week I walked into Dollar Tree and they had a whole bunch of these letters, so it kind of made me laugh. But anyway, now you can just grab those letters at Dollar Tree now too. So I just painted them with some linen white chalk paint, and I added a whole bunch of the glistening glitter to some Mod Podge because I wanted them to be really sparkly and really shiny. So I just coated them with this really sparkly Mod Podge, which you can't really tell, you can't really see the sparkles in it. So I kind of thought, oh, are they even going to show up? But they did end up being really sparkly. So you just kind of have to trust that the glitter's going to show, even though you can't see it when it's in the Mod Podge. So like you saw in the first frame, I'm going to be trying to fit them into these, I think they were meant to be candy dishes from Dollar Tree. They're shaped like snowflakes, and they have kind of a transparent blue paint on the one side and then silver on the other. And it kind of made this project a little bit of a nightmare. I'll get into it as we go, but I was pretty excited about this. I thought it was going to look really good. So to add even more sparkle, I really wanted them to be kind of glistening, sparkly with the pretty blue snowflakes. So I just went in where snow would hit, like wherever snow would fall on them, added some glue, and then added some of this faux snow that was really glistening and glittery, just to add that bit of extra to it. So yeah, just hitting the letters anywhere where the snow would fall. So then I'm just going to go in with some of the blocks from Dollar Tree. So I painted all the sides that you would like maybe see underneath the letters, and then left the other two just the spray paint or whatever's on them, hoping that the glue would stick better. So just going in with my glue gun on hot temperature, and it did end up sticking to these pretty well. So with these blue candy dishes, if you happen to have these candy dishes or get them next year if they have them again, don't take the stickers off. The paint is so, it's just a very, very thin layer of paint, and it comes off so easily. So don't remove the stickers. Like, you have to be very careful with them. So I'm just gluing them down to these snowflakes. And then my plan was to just tape them together and then have them stand up like at an angle so that they would support each other. However, it did not go as easily as planned. So I started with just some blue electrical tape, just what I had on hand, thinking like that I had to be really delicate with these things because it seemed like anything would take the paint off. So I just tried this electrical tape because I knew it wasn't super sticky, and it didn't hold at all. It was a total fail. So I did carefully take the tape off. It did take a little tiny bit of the paint off. And then I had to use the only duct tape that I had on hand, which is this crazy SpongeBob duct tape that I had gotten for my boys. So you just make do with what you have, right? So again, I knew I was only going to get one shot at this because it takes the paint off so easily. So I was just really careful putting it down. I just needed that little bit of flexibility to get the snowflakes at an angle so that they would stand up. So this seemed to work better, so there's hope. So I went ahead and just taped all four of the letters together, just checking to make sure that I had them in the right direction. And eventually I did get them all standing all together with just the duct tape. So I think next year I will maybe cut them apart and maybe put them in some sort of shadow box or something so they're a little bit more protected, but I think they turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them. Glad I did it. I like the sparkle of the blue. It's almost like kind of that mercury glass effect. And now moving on to our second sign. So I knew I wanted kind of an oversized sign. So I went to Home Depot and got them to cut down a piece of hardboard for me into 4 pieces. So they cut down an 8-foot by 4-foot sheet into 2-foot by 4-foot pieces for me. And the whole board was $20. You get 4 cuts for free here. So for $20, I'm going to get 4 double-sided signs. So I'm going to start with this one as my winter sign, and then on the other side I'll do it reversible and hopefully do a Valentine's sign as well. So I just started out by giving it a coat of blue paint, just some blue paint that I had on hand, and it's a semi-gloss Bear paint, but really it doesn't matter, it's just a base coat. So just whatever you have on hand, like you could use a couple bottles of craft paint or maybe one of those test sample jars from one of the paint stores, and then you could get the exact color you want. So here I was just laying out some paper to see how big I could make my words, and I wanted to spell out Snuggle season, so just trying to play around with how much room I'm going to have. So it didn't quite cover it in one coat. I didn't use a primer, so I kind of knew I'd have to do a nice kind of heavy second coat too. I promise I'll get better at editing. It's so hard to know what to include and not to include. So I don't mind things looking handcrafted. I don't mind brush strokes. Like if that's the sort of thing that bothers you, of course you can just use a foam roller or something so you get less marks and less, or no brush strokes, I guess. So I have to admit, I haven't been crafting very much the last kind of 10-12 years, just with life kind of being crazy, but I used to paint a lot, I used to craft a lot, and one of the things I loved was glaze. So faux finishing glaze, it's kind of a long open time, clear, transparent glaze. So I noticed they do sell an aged glaze, like Rust-Oleum makes an aged glaze, but I couldn't find any just clear, transparent faux finish glaze. And so I really had to do a lot of phone calls and searching all over my city. But eventually I did find 1 quart at one hardware store and was super happy to get that. So I guess I'll have to order it online from here on in, but anyway, I was happy to find some at least. So what I did was a whole bunch of glaze, so a whole bunch of this transparent long open time glaze, and then I just added about 1/10 paint. So this is just a nice peacock blue color that I love, and just about 1/10 paint to 9 parts glaze. So then I have some cheesecloth that I'm just kind of bunching up and getting a nice texture to it, a nice kind of fluffy ball of it. And then I just roughly paint some glaze over the whole base coat. So I'll just work in sections. It does stay wet for a long time, but not a super long time. Like you still have to be fairly quick, fairly efficient, but definitely stays wet longer than paint for sure. And it gives you that nice transparent texture sort of thing. So I'm just building up kind of a faux finish over this to give it some nice depth and texture and interest. So I'll just work my way over the whole thing, and you try not to overlap too much, like you just kind of blend into the part that you've already done. So when you see me put the paint on, I won't really paint into what I've already done, just kind of paint up to it, and then just blend into it with the cheesecloth. So just doing kind of a patting, dabbing motion, and the cheesecloth really gives a nice soft texture to the glaze. So I'll just finish off that last little bit. I just kind of wanted it to have the look of a snowstorm, like a little bit of a snowstorm. I guess I missed a spot. So then again, just playing with letters and kind of seeing how big I can make it and how to fill up the sign. So I did kind of want the letters just a little bit bigger, but I couldn't quite fit them on a 8.5 by 11 sheet. So fortunately I have enough practice over the years to just be able to freehand it with some chalk. And chalk is super forgiving, so I highly recommend it. It's wonderful to just sketch out in chalk and erase whatever doesn't work and keep what does. So that's what I did, and I just made it a little bit bigger so I could fill up my whole sign with it. And then I'm just going back in with that Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. So chalk paint is new in the last 10 years, so I'm kind of excited to discover that and find out the properties of that. I like that it's so such good coverage, and you can usually get away with one coat, which is amazing. So I'm kind of loving that. So I guess it's not a bad trade-off for glaze. So then I'm just going to use some white craft paint, just acrylic apple barrel I think it is, and I'm just going to go in with a toothbrush and do some flicking with the white paint just to make kind of a snowy effect. So I'm trying to be really random, not make a pattern, just get all different sizes, little speckles all over it. So I knew it wasn't going to be quite enough because it is such a large sign, but I just kind of randomly tried to get some texture over the whole thing, some of the little sprinkles of paint all over it. And then once I'd kind of covered that as best I could, I just went in with stylus, one of those little ball tools at Dollar Tree. So it's just like a little metal tool with a small ball on one end and then a little bit bigger ball on the other end, and just dipping that in the paint, and it gives you these perfect little round circles. So just going in with some bigger ones to give, you know, kind of that variance in texture, variance in snow. Just trying to create my own little snowstorm. So while I was at Home Depot, I wanted to get some 1x2s cut down to be, so a 1x is actually 3/4, so I wanted it to be a 3/4 by 3/4 strip just to frame out the pictures with. But they informed me that they weren't able to do that small of a cut. And he actually tried it, it wouldn't work with the saw, so I was just like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And he let me look through the scrap bin that was there, just cut-offs that people leave behind and they throw out, I guess, apparently. And there was some small pieces, so he said, why don't you just take these? And I said, sure, I can make those work. So that's what I did. These are just some free scraps from Home Depot, that I'm going to frame this out with. I just don't have access to our table saw right now because of all the Christmas stuff in her garage. So once I do, I'm going to cut down a bunch of 1x2s in half, and then I'll have a whole bunch of framing material. But for now, these scraps work just great. So while I was at Home Depot, I learned that they also sell this delicate surface painter's tape. And I thought, oh, that's amazing. I wish I had that back in the day doing murals and faux finishing. So I thought I'll try it with this freshly painted sign, and it worked like a charm. I can't say enough good things about it. So it's this purple delicate surface painter's tape, and it worked really well on this freshly painted sign. So what I did was use some of the glaze that I had already made. I just put it into a different container. So just a little bit of that, and then I added some extra paint to it. So to make it more opaque, so it'll still be a little bit transparent, but just more opaque than the original glaze that I was using. I've been really inspired by all these flour sack stripes that I've been seeing everywhere, so I thought I would kind of try and mimic that, almost like a sweater effect too, like the stripes on a sweater, the stripes on a flour sack. So just two thin ones with the wider band in the middle, and so again I'm just doing that pouncing motion with the cheesecloth just to give it that softer texture. And then you'll get to see here that tape worked like a dream. Just like a charm. Didn't pull off any of the other paint. So then I just took those stain pieces from Home Depot. So I just used some dark walnut stain that I had on hand, and I'm just gluing them down to the frame. And I didn't have any staples long enough at the moment, but I'll staple it when I take it down. And then I just wanted to protect it, so I just gave it a coat of crystal clear sealer. I just picked that up at Walmart. I like to have that on hand for projects. It also helps matte the entire project, so with that semi-gloss base coat and everything, I just wanted it to all be matte. And here's my 3 finished projects all together. So I just want to thank Leeny and Diane and Jenny for letting me be a part of their collaborate. I'm so excited to be a part of this Sign Wednesday. And hopefully you've seen something that you like, and maybe you'll subscribe to see more. Thank you guys so much for watching.